Well, in the meantime, on one of the key development partners of the Mission 300 initiative, the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, told Arise News that the new Pan-African Electricity Program was designed to incorporate and expand on the existing various power pool in the East, West and Southern Africa. The head of the GEAPP for Africa, Joseph Naganga, spoke to Arise business correspondent Bosun Omofai about this and more in this one-on-one interview chat.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Joseph, for giving us this interview here at the Mission 300 Summit in Dar es Salaam. And I want to start by finding out from you what the GEAPP, the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, is bringing to the table to support the AfDB, the World Bank, and the Rockefeller Foundation to make electricity access possible for 300 million Africans by the year 2030.
Thank you very much for the time, and we are very excited about this summit. The summit is both a culmination of a lot of work, but also the beginning of a very exciting future for the continent. At the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, we exist to drive three outcomes: drive electrification, make sure it's bringing jobs to the communities, and do so with sustainable power. Up until Mission 300, we have been working with countries to start preparing for that journey. So everything from capacity building by putting things like an energy transition office in the presidency in Nigeria, to modeling integrated resource planning in Malawi. That has been the foundation on which we can then say that countries are ready for the scale-up that is Mission 300. Part of Mission 300, our contribution is ensuring that the projects are moving quickly. That requires technical assistance, both on the public side, so supporting governments to quickly do their policies, regulations in readiness for the funding on the public side, as well as technical support for private sector. The reality is, while we have $48 billion from public funding, we need 2 to 3 times more of that from private sector to achieve 300 million Africans electrified by 2030. So GEAPP exists to support the private sector side as well. And the third thing I will say is innovation. We can use our philanthropic capital to carry out new innovative business models. For example, in partnership with Mastercard Foundation, we're looking at how when you deliver electrons in rural communities, those communities also have the appliances that use that electricity to increase their productive capability. Things like rice milling, maize milling, e-mobility, and so on.
Are you convinced about the progress you've seen so far? And I'm sure there are going to be about 12 energy compact program to be unveiled at this particular summit by 12 African countries. Give me an idea of what this energy compact program actually contains and how hopeful it is to deliver energy access.
I'm very excited about the compacts because the compacts speak to a country's specific needs. We're not making macro statements, we're not making general statements, we're going right to the details of what one country might need vis-a-vis another. We are all in different stages of development, we have different sources of energy, we have different capabilities in terms of government capacity, and so each compact is a good way of defining that country's need so that it is optimized for Mission 300 in that country. But crucially, we are also gathering here for the Dar es Salaam Declaration. The Dar es Salaam Declaration speaks to how we as a continent are going to work together. So you have the compacts looking at the country level, but the declaration looking at the continent level to make sure that we are optimized for each other's strengths. And the declaration is looking at 5 topics which the heads of states are committing to. The first one is policy reform to ensure prioritization and acceleration of electrification. The second is an enabling environment for private sector to drive capital from private sector. The third is ensuring that the utilities are viable. If your distribution company isn't viable financially, it cannot serve the citizens correctly. The fourth, of course, is ensuring that besides the traditional large-scale generation, transmission, and distribution, we are also incorporating distributed renewable energy and clean cooking to drive our homes to have cleaner cooking and to have the optimal business models for electrification. And finally, and equally importantly, is regional integration. African heads of state in the Dar es Salaam Declaration are committing to work together, not just with their internal policies and regulations, but policies and regulations that allow for interconnection across the continent, which is critical for scale.
Very interesting, the focus on regional integration. We will have a few regional integration programs, such as the West African Power Pool, the Southern Africa, and a similar project for East Africa. What's going to be different this time around from what we already have in terms of these regional power pool agreements?
They're phenomenal and they've started really, really well, but they are still 5 regional power pools. So we need to interconnect those power pools. That is step one. And this is being handled under the AUDA NEPAD Continental Master Plan. But equally important is within the power pools themselves, there's a lot more that needs to be done. We need a lot more interconnectors within each power pool. We need a robust, dynamic, liquid, well-capitalized, AI technology-driven trading platform that allows for private sector, for countries to be able to get each electron at the least cost possible while optimizing for their demand and their ability to pay. So within each power pool, there's quite a bit of work to be done to strengthen the collaboration, including infrastructure and software. And then there is the interconnection of the 5 power pools across the continent.
My final point, Mr. Vice President, has to do with the bankability and finding that capital for Africa to leverage Mission 300. Rockefeller has about $64 million on the table. The World Bank is putting some money on the table as well as the AfDB. Do you think Africa can mobilize some of this capital for energy within the continent and some others from the outside? How possible is that?
Up until now, I would have said it is very difficult. But today, African heads of states are gathering and committing to the declaration. One of those commitments is on policy reforms. The challenge with mobilizing capital, part of it is the right policies that protect private sector investment at scale. They are also committing to incentivizing private sector. Clarity on policies and procedures, clarity on taxation, incentives on investments into the energy sector unlocks that money. But what's different this time is they're not only doing it country by country, but as a continent. The large amount of money that is needed typically needs large investment opportunities. It's very hard for a large fund manager to work on very small projects. But with the regional integration, we have scale, which means we can have larger projects that can absorb a lot more money and more cost competitiveness. And so I am very, very hopeful that we are at a turning point for the continent's electrification agenda.
Is this mission critical or mission impossible?
It is mission critical. And we really have to remember that this is not just about electricity. It is the mother who has a premature baby that needs to be in an incubator. For that to happen, electricity is needed. It is the rural community that with climate change is facing drought, but with electrification can irrigate their crops and ensure food security. I want us to remember that we have the youngest population in the world. It's about ensuring that they have the tools, technology, AI, computers to be fit for purpose for the future that's coming for them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph Naganga. We appreciate your time. Thank you very much.